This person asks, what's the game plan? This looks really cool. First of all, thank you so much. This person is referring to the Mary Shelley musical I'm writing, which unsurprisingly is about the life of author Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein when she was still a teenager. You might have seen a couple of snippets of songs from the musical on your feed, or you might have seen me before, or the music that I write that's inspired by Greek mythology, for my mythology-inspired concept albums and novellas, maybe as the voice of Aphrodite in Epic, or the girl that used to do international punning and write songs about crossword puzzles. However you came here, welcome to the world of Mary Shelley. I realized that I've never actually taken you guys a little bit into my thought process behind making this musical and what my big pie-in-the-sky dreams are for it, so I thought I would take a moment and yap to you all about the Mary Shelley musical. I think the first thing to talk about is, why Mary Shelley? Why did I become so fixated on her that I had to write an entire musical about her life? I became obsessed with Mary Shelley about 2 years ago. I had just finished reading Frankenstein, obviously felt like it was one of the most impactful things I'd ever read, and then went on this internet deep dive about Mary Shelley's life and discovered that her life is so much more fascinating than anything anyone has ever written. Not only did she write one of the most influential pieces of literature when she was literally a teenager, she did so at a time where young women were not really taken seriously in literature and in society. She was a Gothic queen, kept her husband's heart in a drawer, courted her husband at her mother's grave. It's so much stuff that's like ripe for imagery and beautiful songs. And super interestingly, her network, the people that she was associated with, is like the Avengers of 17th and 18th century British literature. Her father, William Godwin, was an acclaimed poet. Her mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, an incredibly famous feminist writer. Her husband, Percy Shelley, also a famous poet. She was family friends with Aaron Burr and his daughter Theodosia. Hello, Hamilton crossover. She birthed the idea of Frankenstein during a summer that she spent at incredibly famous poet Lord Byron's house. And Lord Byron's daughter was Ada Lovelace, who then became the mother of computer science. But the most striking thing emotionally to me was the relationship that Mary had with her mother. Interestingly, she never knew her mother. Her mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, died days after giving birth to Mary Shelley. And very interestingly, while Mary Wollstonecraft's work was celebrated during her lifetime, after she died, she was massively discredited in the press and in society because of her personal life. Mary grew up seeing this happen to her mother, but she also became obsessed with her mother's writing. It was like her mother was raising her from beyond the grave. I thought this idea of legacy and how legacy actually can transcend generations was super fascinating, especially because one of the most interesting part of Mary's story to me is this question of name. She was born Mary Godwin after her father. She desperately wanted to shed that name, so then she marries Percy Shelley at a young age, becomes Mary Shelley, writes Frankenstein, which achieves moderate success during her lifetime under the name Mary Shelley. But after Percy Shelley dies, Mary is told by Percy's family that she can no longer write under the name Mary Shelley. So this question of legacy becomes even more complicated. She had spent her entire life wanting desperately to write something that could stand the test of time, just like her mother's writing, only for her to be told that the name that she wrote those things under is no longer her name. And in what I think is one of the coolest feminist acts of all time, she decides to spend the rest of her life signing documents as author of Frankenstein. Talk about leaving a legacy. I think part of the reason I became so interested in telling Mary's story is because I have the experience of being a young-ish woman struggling with identity and legacy and wanting desperately to write something great to make everything worth it. And finally, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to write this musical is because I truly believe there is a gap in the research about Mary's life. Did she know Ada Lovelace? Did they ever interact? You're telling me the mother of computer science and the mother of science fiction were in each other's circles and never met? And this question of why? Why did Mary Shelley write Frankenstein at such a young age, and why did she decide to turn it into the novel that it ended up becoming? In a really metaphorical way, it's almost like we, the people who live in the current day and age, are Frankensteining our image of Mary from beyond the grave. We're taking this from this from this, and trying to create an entire picture. But as we know, that picture is flawed. And in a way, it's almost like what Mary was trying to do with her own mother. It's cyclical, right? Like she's trying to take her mother's writing and piece together who her mother was after her death. I think it's just a really fascinating rumination on history and the role of the observer in history. Okay, that's me yapping a little bit about Mary Shelley that took a little bit of time. I apologize. greatly. Now the big question, what's the plan? I am currently still in the process of finishing writing the musical. My goal is for there to be 15 songs in the future concept album. I have written 7 demos that I feel really good about, so there's still a long way to go before we have all the demos that we need. I've been following how musicals get developed for a really long time because I'm really fascinated by the creative process, and I've been really inspired recently by the musicals that have developed in real time on social media. Obviously Epic the Musical, which I'm super proud to be a part of, but also like the Bridgerton musical and Ratatouille the musical. I feel like we're living in a golden age of musicals, and I want to be a part of it. I want to show you guys the process and let you into the method behind the madness. Unintended. I also think it's like life imitating art a little bit because you get to see me writing something in real time, just like Mary. My big dreams for this musical obviously are to see it on stage one day, to release a concept album. Fascinatingly, I see a lot of comments from you guys being like, are you gonna play Mary Shelley? I actually don't want to play Mary in the stage production one day, if that ever happens. I feel like there are other characters that I would love to play, but I want someone who's like amazing, preferably British, to really knock Mary out of the park. That's way, 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 way in the future. So in the meantime, if you want to stay up to date on the creation of the musical, on its development, obviously you can follow me here. You can join the communities that are dedicated to discussing some of this stuff here and here. You know where to find them. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support. This is like a dream come true for me to have anyone listening at all, and I can't wait to make a musical and for it to be alive. Okay, love you guys.